celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. KTVU honors the achievements and influence of Hispanic Americans, including a conversation with trailblazer and civil rights icon Dolores Huerta.
We know that Mexican culture, Hispanic culture is the history of the United States of America, and it's about all of us.
Plus, lessons learned in the farm fields. 3 professionals share how working in one of the state's most critical jobs as children set them up for a lifetime of success.
It gave me the structure and discipline to do what I'm doing right now, finishing my education, having a career, going back to serving the community.
And one of the largest celebrations in the state honoring a Mexican tradition, Dia de los Muertos.
Huge tradition in Oakland now. Not only Oakland, but especially for the Fruitvale community, for the residents, to highlight the businesses, to highlight the artists.
Welcome to a celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month presented by KTVU. I'm Christina Rendon.
And I'm Greg Lee. We are recognizing the contributions past, present, and future of Latinos or Latinx people to our nation, our society, and our culture.
Latinos are deeply rooted in California's identity. There are 15.6 million Latinos across the state, making up 39% of the population.
They are California's largest ethnic group and voting bloc. Their stories unique across all facets of society.
We begin with a civil rights icon. Dolores Huerta has spent her entire life working to improve the lives of Latinos and fighting for equal rights and representation.
Huerta is one of the most influential labor leaders in history. She founded the Dolores Huerta Foundation in 2002, inspiring communities and new generations to organize.
Huerta coined the famous phrase, si se puede, Spanish for yes, we can.
I spoke to Huerta and her daughter, Camila Chavez, about the work they continued to do and the legacy Huerta's created. Dolores and Camila, what an honor. Thank you so much for taking the time. Dolores, let me start with you. For more than 60 years, you have fought and advocated for labor rights, for women, for immigrants, for education reform, and more. When you look back and you look forward, what continues to drive you to be that change?
Well, we know that we have made a lot of progress, but that we still have a long way to go. We still need to get equal rights for women. We don't have the senatorial approval of the Equal Rights Amendment, for instance, and this has been proposed. This passed the House of Representatives, but it's stuck in the Senate, so that equal rights for women will be part of the Constitution of the United States of America. It's a very exciting time for all of us, that we know that we're going forward and not backward, but at the same time we know it's painful for many people, but at the same time very hopeful.
Camila, we know that your mother was inspired by her mother. So what has it been for you watching your mother, working with her, and continuing to carry on this legacy of hers?
Yeah, well, it's been a great learning experience for sure. She has been my number one, mentor and teacher, as many children can say about their parents. And when we were growing up in the movement, it wasn't really like dinner conversation or armchair, kind of conversation. We really learned from doing. I mean, it was all hands on deck. And as kids, we knew that we all had a responsibility to contribute to the movement. So whether we could make signs, for picket lines, or stuff envelopes, of mailings that were going to go out asking people to support the boycott, as kids, we all had a role.
Dolores, as you know, we're celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. And as you mentioned, there's much work to do. But how important is it to pause and acknowledge and celebrate the accomplishments of you and so many others?
Well, I think a history lesson is really important also to understand the role of Hispanics in our world today. And so I love to say to people, Google a map of the United States before 1848. And what you will find is that a third of the United States was Mexico. In the Mexican-American War, they actually took 50% of Mexico. That became the United States of America. And I think it's important for people to know this. Sometimes I think people might say, how do we get the words like California, Fresno, San Joaquin? These are all Spanish names, as we know. San Francisco, Sacramento, because this was all part of Mexico, and before that part of Spain. And then, of course, even before that, it belonged to the indigenous people. And it's important, I think, for us to know that history.
During this month and during this special, to leave your enduring message for the Hispanic community, but the community at large as well. And Camila, I'll start with you.
I just want to remind folks that, this is a special month, right? Hispanic Heritage Month. And it is so important because we know that so many folks like myself growing up, had to learn about, our people's history outside of school. And so the struggle still continues, right? We want this to be a year-round educational experience, not just, this 1 month during the school year. So we've come a long way. We have longer to go, and just, wanted to, thank everybody, for celebrating this month, and that we continue to do that year-round. Si se puede.
Dolores, I'll let you have the last word.
We know that Mexican culture, Hispanic culture is the history of the United States of America, and it's about all of us. But this is all part of bringing our global world together. When we think of the United States of America, that we have so many different people that come from all over the world, we should be the shining example of a global democracy, not just here in our United States of America, but a global democracy, so that we could have peace in the world, so that we could help each other out, not only here in our homeland, but also help people in other countries. And we in the Central Valley, I think that we can be one of those shining examples that needs to be made. So eventually we can have global peace, share our resources that we have with people all over the world, to know that we are one human family. Si se puede. Yes, we can.
Still sharp at 92. And now to another legend, this one in the world of football, Tom Flores. Bay Area fans know him as the former Oakland and LA Raiders coach who had more wins than Bill Walsh and Jimmy Johnson. But more importantly, he blazed a trail for young Latino players and coaches to excel in a league that is now gaining popularity south of the border. KTVU's Frank Malakote spoke with Flores about his legacy.
85-year-old Tom Flores can't help but be proud. Raised by immigrant parents from Mexico, this lifetime Raider has flourished for 60-plus years in the NFL.
When I think about it, it makes me warm. It makes me warm, fuzzy, the old warm and fuzzy feeling.
Flores was the NFL's first Latino to start at quarterback, the first person of color to become a head coach. And during that 9-year Raider run, he won 2 Super Bowls. In fact, Tom Flores is one of just 2 men that have won Super Bowls as both a player, an assistant coach, and a head coach. Not bad for a kid out of the San Joaquin Valley town of Sanger.
Don't make me your hero. I'm not your hero. You look at your hero, you look at home, you look at your dad, your uncle. Those are your heroes. Those are the people that lead you. You just look at me as somebody that maybe that got it done, that happens to be Hispanic like you, and shows you that it can be done.
Flores always deflects the spotlight, but even he realized his popularity grew tenfold when the Raiders moved from Oakland to Los Angeles. The heavy Latino population of LA gravitated to this quiet giant, but it wasn't until he retired from coaching when it all sunk in at a Texas airport.
This kid comes up and says, "My dad cried when you won the Super Bowl." I said, "What? Who are you?" I said, "Well, I'm so-and-so, and I said, "Do I know you?" I said, "No, but my dad cried because of your heritage and what you have done." I said, "Well, I'll be darned." Then I realized this is big. This is a little bigger than I think it is, I guess, in the pride division.
I was always happy in the world of football, and now because of this honor, I'll be part of it forever. Forever. Realize that? That is incredible.
In July of 2021, Tom Flores was inducted into football's Hall of Fame. The father of 3 and grandfather of 5 had finally achieved football's highest honor.
I glowed for the entire week. I was on a cloud. My whole and the fact that my whole family, other than my brother who was passed and mom and dad, but my whole family, grandkids and all, were there to enjoy it. And that was even more overwhelming.
Flores believes if travel and security restrictions improve, Mexico City will someday have its own NFL franchise. But right now, he believes the Las Vegas Raiders are the team south of the border.
When you look at the fans, Raider fans are huge Hispanics. I mean, that seems to be the choice of the Hispanics, the Raiders. And as long as that's going to be in existence, we will survive in this. They love wherever we are. There's our fans. And we may look dangerous, but we're really not dangerous.
With the Raiders as a player.
Frank Malico, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
As Mexicanos, Latinos, we are educated. We are the professors, the journalists, the scientists, the astronauts. I will always be a farm worker in spirit, always.
Still to come, 3 adults share their experiences working in the farm fields as kids. They discuss how it shaped them and taught them lessons for a lifetime.
Music is a huge part of Latino culture, from salsa to cumbia to reggaeton, but one genre you might not think of, the fusion of classical and mariachi music. I spoke with one man who travels the country as a guest conductor, leading symphony orchestras in celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. At 33 years old, Enrico Lopez Yanez is living his dream as a conductor.
My father is an opera singer, my mother is a pianist, so music was always something around our household.
He's the principal pops conductor in Nashville, Tennessee, and guest conducts with orchestras across the country. Last month, he joined the San Francisco Symphony for its performance of Fiestas Patrias, featuring a mix of classical and mariachi music.
Mariachi music is not traditionally seen in a concert hall that seats, 2,800 people, but it has just as much artistic value as the classical music that we present in the concert hall.
Orchestras featured for Hispanic Heritage Month are close to his heart.
My family's from Mexico, specifically from Aguascalientes. There are maybe a couple of us Mexican conductors out working the, conducting scene, I would say. So it's not, a given or a very popular career path, and it's certainly one that's very competitive in the world. But having grown up around music, I think at least my parents were not surprised that I would want to pursue something like this.
Lopez Yanez got started at a young age playing instruments and found his way into conducting. He enjoys how collaborative it is, creating something that no one musician can do. He hopes audiences are inspired to learn more about Latin music, no matter the genre, and in his case, no matter the dream.
Anyone of any age, clearly, or background can be a conductor and have an interest in music, or even if you're not conducting, make your way onto the stage, whether it's as a dancer, as a guitar player, as a trumpet player. There's room to, dream and make those dreams become a reality.
A good message there. Speaking of making dreams come true, it was a story that went viral. A UC San Diego graduate paid tribute to her heritage by taking her graduation photos in the strawberry fields where she used to work alongside her immigrant parents.
Yeah, this is Jennifer Rocha. Her graduation photos captured international attention as she honored her parents' sacrifices that led to her success. And it's a story that resonates with many people here in the Bay Area.
KTVU's Allie Rasmus spoke with 3 Bay Area professionals who reflect on the unique education they had in the farm fields of Northern California.
An Emmy Award-winning former journalist.
For me, it was important to tell these stories.
A healthcare worker in Monterey County.
Be hardworking, but be loving.
And Half Moon Bay's first Latino city council member.
It's a sense of pride, but at the same time, it's about being grateful.
Victoria Sanchez de Alba, Lupe Covarrubias Martinez, and Joaquin Jimenez Ureña have different careers as adults, but a shared experience as kids.
Working in the fields, agricultural fields.
All 3 of them attribute part of their success to the time they spent working alongside their parents in the farm fields of the California coast, from Half Moon Bay to Salinas.
We had to put handkerchiefs to cover our face because of the pesticides and the dirt.
Years later, Victoria earned a national Emmy for her work with the Center for Investigative Reporting. Now she has her own public relations company.
We tell the stories that don't get told.
In 2017, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society nominated her as a Woman of the Year for her work raising awareness about the connection between farm workers exposed to pesticides and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Her father, who worked in the fields for 50 years, died from the disease.
Not only does it affect farm workers, but it also affects us as consumers because we're eating this stuff.
There's pictures of me as a baby being in a box of carrots while my parents were working in the carrots.
Lupe Covarrubias Martinez also remembers her early childhood in the strawberry fields and what it taught her.
You get a sense of accomplishment, like I did something today, and what I did is something that somebody's gonna eat.
The connection to food and nourishment is part of her job now as a chronic disease prevention specialist for Monterey County. As part of her job, she goes back to the farm fields to help workers with health, diet, and nutrition.
My mother actually is the one that also taught me to be community-minded. That's something that I've carried out now throughout my whole life.
Joaquin Jimenez Ureña also maintains a connection to the land and the people who work it.
Every summer, since the age of 8, we go onto the field.
He's the Farm Worker Outreach Director at Alas Cultural Center in Half Moon Bay, a nonprofit group helping the Latino community in San Mateo County. Every Friday, he brings lunch to some of Half Moon Bay's farm workers. Today, he visits workers harvesting Brussels sprouts.
I don't see workers, I see family, because both my parents are retired farm workers.
2 years ago, Joaquin became Half Moon Bay's first Mexican-born Latino city council member.
With 62% of the votes.
He says his education in the fields
It gave me the structure and discipline to do what I'm doing right now.
His latest project, launching a farm worker co-op on this 76-acre plot of land in Half Moon Bay.
The focus is education, training, and opportunity.
Rancho San Benito is scheduled to open in the spring. The three friends sometimes reunite at the Alas Cultural Center in Half Moon Bay to talk about their work today and the experience that brought them here.
Education and learning is a great opportunity for anyone, in a classroom or in a field.
They know their stories aren't unique, but they're glad that finally there's more public awareness and appreciation for the work farm workers do and the successes it can lead to later in life.
As Mexicanos, Latinos, we are educated. We are the professors, the journalists, the scientists, the astronauts. I will always be a farm worker in spirit, always.
In Half Moon Bay, Allie Rasmus, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
Just before the legislative deadline, Governor Gavin Newsom signed a bill that will expand the union rights of farm workers. The governor's office also finalized an agreement with United Farm Workers and the California Labor Federation to clarify language next year, ensuring worker protections. Newsom called California's farm workers the lifeblood of the state. He says they have a fundamental right to unionize and advocate for themselves.
The corn, when you try and roll them up and try and make them large, they break apart, they fall apart. You end up just wearing your lunch as opposed to eating your lunch.
Next, San Francisco is famous for the mission-style burrito, but who invented it? We're exploring the stories of how the iconic Bay Area favorite was created.
Welcome back. We're taking a deep dive into a key part of San Francisco's food culture, the mission-style burrito. A couple of taquerias come to mind when many people think of a classic mission-style burrito, but who invented it? KTVU's Sal Castaneda talked to people who create those meals every day and the people who love them.
Although the burrito was said to be first served in Mexico as early as the 1800s, it was in the United States where Mexican Americans changed it to be bigger and easier to take on the go. Now, when you go get a burrito almost anywhere, chances are they'll hand you something like this, turned out at mom and pop shops and national chains all over the country. It's basically a full Mexican meal inside a flour tortilla wrapped in foil. The recipe for the burrito, the way you know it now, was modified right here in San Francisco. It even has its own name, the Mission Style Burrito, or the Mission Burrito, named after the Mission District here in the city. But where was the first Mission Style Burrito made? Two taquerias here in the Mission District lay claim to it. The first one is El Faro on 20th and Folsom Street. Legend has it the original owners of El Faro made the first super burrito for the firefighters of Station 7 just down the street.
Empezó el burrito, así como lo hacemos.
The burrito started here like the way we make it, says Raimunda Ramirez, who is the current owner of El Faro. She told me in Spanish she worked for the original owner who made that first big burrito for the firefighters in 1961.
I got the super again.
What kind of meat?
I got chicken.
Loyal customers like this keep coming back. El Faro recently celebrated its 61st year in business. Not too far away is La Cumbre, a taqueria where the sign outside said it's the originator of the Mission-style burrito. Edward Duran is a second-generation owner here. He says the key to the burrito his family made was using the flour tortilla and all the ingredients contained inside.
Yeah, initially what happened was that predominantly the Mexican heritage and the diet as such was based around corn. And so the tortillas used at that time were all corn tortillas. But Raul and Mickey discovered through my grandmother and her recipe for flour tortillas that the corn, when you try and roll them up and try and make them large, they break apart, they fall apart. You end up just wearing your lunch as opposed to eating your lunch.
I think there's credence to both stories. I think what makes the Mission burrito a Mission burrito is the foil that it's wrapped in and the rice that comes in it and the condiments like guacamole, sour cream, cheese, salsa, and so whichever La Cumbre or El Faro did that first, I think that's the birth of the real Mission burrito. I heard the first one here was corn tortillas wrapped up and made for the firemen.
Nico Madrigal Jankowski is a food writer for SF Gate. He says he's done extensive research into the history of the burrito.
It's hard to find a bad taqueria in San Francisco, to be honest, especially if you're in the Mission.
None of the original firefighters from the 60s, of course, are still around at Station 7, although the current group told me they still visit El Faro. Taquerias are seemingly everywhere in the Mission. Well-known ones like Pancho Villa on 16th Street and La Taqueria on Mission Street. Also less well-known places are turning out big Mission-style burritos. Wherever you go to get yours, a little bit of San Francisco's Mexican-American culture will be there.
The culture of being in the Mission is part of what you get when you walk into a San Francisco taqueria. Whether it be, the family recipes that are passed down through generations that make the rice or the beans or how to grill the chicken.
A culture that is still going strong decades later. In San Francisco, Sal Castaneda, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
Sal, making us hungry.
That's right.
Well, even though Hispanic Heritage Month is coming to a close, there are so many other ways to honor Latino culture. In fact, in just a few weeks, one of the largest festivals in the state is being celebrated in Oakland.
We're talking about the annual Dia de los Muertos festival, and this year it returns for its first in-person event post-pandemic.
The Dia de los Muertos Festival, a tradition in Oakland's Fruitvale district. It started 27 years ago to support local businesses.
It was a way like, hey, let's put on a Dia event and maybe people will come. And now it's 27 years later, and it's one of the largest Dia celebrations in the state.
Chris Iglesias is CEO of the Unity Council. The Oakland nonprofit puts on the event celebrating the Mexican two-day holiday that reconnects the living with the dead. From the music and food to the altars, this year the festival will honor essential workers. The celebration happening in Fruitvale Village, right next to the BART station that remained busiest during the pandemic.
We had a lot of the essential workers getting on, going to San Francisco, other parts of the Bay to keep the economy going. This is really the land of the essential workers. And they're the ones that have carried the economy over the past couple of years. So most people could stay home, right? And I think that's important. And we want to give back to them and we want to honor them.
One of the many stores hoping to benefit from festival crowds is Adeline's Fiesta Latina on International Boulevard. A narrow shop rented by Rigoberto Burrito.
Every Dia de los Muertos, we celebrate that day. I think that's the best days we can sell more.
His store is filled with clothes and decor.
All these come from Mexico.
Household items, sombreros, and boots. But customers come here for his alteration skills and handmade leather goods. Murillo is a former street vendor who taught himself to make custom pieces. His work reflective of his upbringing in León, Guanajuato, Mexico.
I make a lot of things that I never make it before, but I'm happy because my mind is always busy. I feel pretty proud to do what I'm doing.
He's looking forward to the Dia Festival that's expected to bring out 100,000 people to the Fruit Vale.
Those celebrations in the street, that's the more important for, I think, for all the vendors and the businesses here.
The festival will be full of food, Aztec rituals, rides, arts and crafts, and more, along with the altar exhibits filled with yellow marigolds, pictures of the deceased, and other offerings for the dead. Iglesias calls it a homecoming.
It kind of directs our ancestors back to the community with the comida, with food, and the photos. It's really, there's just deep tradition in this. Not only Oakland, but especially for the Fruit Vale community, for the residents, to highlight the businesses, to highlight the artists, and to really bring meaning to what this day signifies for the Latino community, especially those from Mexico.
The Dia de los Muertos Festival will take place Sunday, October 30th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. The family-friendly event is free and open to the public. We want to thank you for joining us for this special celebration of Hispanic heritage here in the Bay Area.
And as a Mexican American myself from the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas, I know how unique our stories are and how important our voices are. And we hope that you continue to recognize the contributions of Latinos across the state. For all of these stories and more, you can head to our website at KTVU.com and check out our section on Hispanic Heritage Month.